Have you ever heard the saying, "Truth is stranger than fiction"? This story will make you a believer. It's a tale that begins on a seemingly ordinary journey, but descends into a baffling mystery that challenges the very laws of physics and human nature. Imagine being sealed in a metal tube, hurtling through the desert at 70 miles an hour, only to vanish into thin air. This isn't a magic trick. It's a real-life enigma that unfolded under the blistering Arizona sun. The year was 1957, and the Canyon Star Express was making its scheduled run from Phoenix to Flagstaff. The train was a marvel of its time, its carriages a rolling microcosm of society. Businessmen in crisp suits, families on vacation, and solitary wanderers all shared the same space, each lost in their own world as the dramatic landscape of red rock and saguaro cacti slid past their windows. Among these passengers was a man, Arthur Finch. He was a quiet, unassuming geologist in his late 40s, known for his meticulous nature and his passion for rare minerals. He was traveling to Flagstaff for a geological conference, carrying a worn leather satchel that, according to his colleagues, contained not just his research papers, but also several recently discovered and potentially valuable geode samples. Finch was seated in carriage number 7, a Pullman car known for its relative comfort and privacy. He shared a 4-person compartment with 3 other men. There was a boisterous salesman, Frank Miller, a young, nervous-looking student called Peter Shaw, and a stern, elderly gentleman, a retired judge by the name of Elias Vance. The journey began without incident. The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long, stark shadows across the desert floor. The rhythmic clatter of the wheels was a hypnotic lullaby, and the gentle rocking of the carriage lulled many into a doze. The air inside was thick with the scent of polished wood, old leather, and the faint aroma of coffee wafting from the dining car. Around midday, Frank Miller, the salesman, decided to stretch his legs and head to the dining car for lunch. He noted that Arthur Finch was engrossed in a book, his precious satchel resting securely on the luggage rack above his head. The student, Peter Shaw, was staring out the window, his face pale, while Judge Vance appeared to be asleep, his head tilted back against the plush seat. An hour later, when Miller returned, the scene had changed. Finch's seat was empty. His book lay open on the cushion, but the man himself was gone. At first, Miller assumed he had simply gone to the restroom or another carriage. But his satchel, the one he guarded so closely, was also missing from the overhead rack. Miller casually asked the others. Peter Shaw, startled, shook his head and mumbled that he hadn't seen Finch leave. He claimed he'd been so focused on the scenery that he hadn't paid any attention to his fellow passengers. His hands trembled slightly as he spoke, his eyes darting around the compartment. Judge Vance, now awake and alert, stated with cold certainty that he had been asleep the entire time Miller was gone. He insisted that no one had entered or exited the compartment. His voice was firm, authoritative, leaving no room for argument. He adjusted his spectacles and peered at the empty seat, if it were a piece of evidence in a courtroom. This was the first thread of the impossibility. The compartment door had remained closed. The windows were sealed shut, a standard safety feature on the Canyon Star to keep out the desert dust and heat. There was no other exit. How could a man, along with his luggage, simply disappear from a sealed room? Panic, quiet at first, began to ripple through the carriage. The train conductor, a seasoned veteran named John Gable, was summoned. Gable was a practical, no-nonsense man who had seen almost everything in his 30 years on the rails, but this situation left him utterly baffled. He conducted a thorough search of the compartment. He checked under the seats, in the small overhead compartments, and even tapped on the walls, looking for a hidden panel or a secret exit. He found nothing. The space was exactly as it was designed, a solid, enclosed box. Gable then initiated a full search of the entire train. He and his staff went from carriage to carriage, checking every restroom, every closet, every nook and cranny where a person might hide. They questioned passengers, but no one recalled seeing the quiet geologist anywhere outside his compartment. Arthur Finch had not passed through any other car. The news spread like a virus through the train. Whispers turned into anxious chatter. The air of peaceful travel was replaced by a palpable tension. Every passenger became a potential witness, and every shadow seemed to hold a sinister secret. The vast, indifferent desert outside suddenly felt less like a beautiful backdrop and more like an accomplice to an impossible crime. When the Canyon Star finally pulled into the Flagstaff station, it was met not by waiting families and taxi drivers, but by a team of stone-faced railway police and local detectives. The train was immediately quarantined. The passengers of carriage number 7 detained for questioning. Leading the investigation was Detective Miles Corbin, a sharp, cynical man who believed that every mystery had a rational explanation, no matter how outlandish it seemed. He distrusted tales of the supernatural and had a knack for seeing the lies people told themselves and others. He listened patiently to the accounts of Miller, Shaw, and Vance. Miller, the salesman, was loud and cooperative, eager to share every detail, perhaps a little too eager. He recounted his trip to the dining car, the food he ate, and the exact state of the compartments when he left and when he returned. His story was consistent, but Corbin sensed a layer of performance, as if Miller was enjoying the spotlight a bit too much. Peter Shaw, the student, was the opposite. He was withdrawn and terrified. He stammered through his answers, his story riddled with "I don't knows" and "I'm not sore's." He swore he had just been looking out the window, lost in thought. Corbin noted the beads of sweat on the young man's brow, a physical manifestation of a deep-seated fear that seemed disproportionate to that of a mere witness. Elias Vance, the retired judge, was calm and collected. He spoke with precision, dissecting the timeline with legalistic accuracy. He was adamant. The door had not opened. He presented his testimony as an irrefutable fact. Corbin found the judge's certainty almost as suspicious as Shaw's nervousness. It felt too perfect, too rehearsed. The detectives tore the carriage apart. They brought in engineers to inspect the windows, the floorboards, and the ceiling. Every panel was removed, every screw turned. Their conclusion was unanimous and deeply unsettling. There was no way out. The compartment was a sealed container. The laws of physics dictated that Arthur Finch should still be inside. Corbin was at a dead end. The media got wind of the story, and soon headlines screamed about the phantom of the Canyon Star and the vanishing geologist. Theories ran wild. Had he been vaporized, abducted by aliens? Had he somehow discovered a way to dematerialize? Corbin scoffed at these fantasies. The answer, he knew, had to be human. He decided to change his approach. Instead of focusing on how Finch disappeared, he started to investigate why someone might want him to. He delved into Arthur Finch's life. He wasn't just a quiet geologist. His recent discoveries in the Superstition Mountains were rumored to be of immense value, not just scientifically, but monetarily. He had unearthed a unique type of fire agate, a gemstone with a rare, deep luminescence. This discovery had not gone unnoticed. Corbin uncovered letters from aggressive mineral collectors and corporations, all vying to get their hands on Finch's claim and his samples. The worn leather satchel wasn't just luggage, it was a treasure chest. The motive was no longer a mystery, it was greed. With a motive established, Corbin returned to his 3 primary suspects. He was convinced one of them was lying, or perhaps all of them were. He decided to break them, not with force, but with the one thing that could unravel this impossible crime, the truth. He separated the 3 men and began to play them against each other, feeding them small, fabricated pieces of information. He told Miller that the student, Shaw, had confessed to seeing something. He told Shaw that the judge, Vance, had remembered a crucial detail that implicated him. He hinted that fingerprints had been found in an impossible place. Miller's bravado began to crack. Shaw became even more frantic. on the verge of a complete breakdown. Only Judge Vance remained unshakable, his composure a formidable wall of granite. But Corbin noticed a tiny flicker in his eye when he mentioned a specific detail about the train's construction. Corbin's breakthrough came from an unexpected source: the train's original blueprints, which he had requested from the manufacturer. Poring over the old, faded schematics, he found it. A forgotten detail, a relic of a bygone era of train design. It was a small, narrow maintenance hatch located directly under the seats. The hatch was designed for engineers to access the undercarriage wiring and was bolted shut from the inside. It was almost perfectly concealed beneath the seat cushions and the layer of flooring. It hadn't been used in decades and was not on any of the modern-day inspection checklists. It was the impossible exit. Armed with this new knowledge, Corbin confronted the three men together. He laid the blueprint on the table. There was a way out, he said, his voice low and steady. He pointed to the location of the hatch on the diagram. A way to get a man and his satchel off this train without ever opening the door. He watched their reactions. Miller looked genuinely stunned, but Peter Shaw's face went ashen, and he slumped in his chair as if a great weight had crushed him. And Judge Vance, for the first time, the old man's composure fractured. A muscle twitched in his jaw. Then, Peter Shaw began to sob, a torrent of confession pouring out of him. He wasn't just a student. He worked for a ruthless mineral corporation that had been trying to buy out Finch's claim. His task was simple: get the satchel. He was only supposed to steal it, not harm anyone. But Arthur Finch had woken up. A struggle ensued. In a moment of panic, Shaw had struck him hard with a heavy bookend from the compartment. Finch fell, his head hitting the edge of the seat frame. He was dead. The theft had turned into a homicide. Shaw, consumed by terror, didn't know what to do. That's when the sleeping Judge Vance intervened. Vance, as it turned out, had a dark secret. Decades ago, his son had been convicted of a crime based on circumstantial evidence, a case he believed was a miscarriage of justice. This had twisted his view of the law, making him believe he could enact his own version of it. Vance had overheard conversations about Finch's valuable discovery. Seeing the young, terrified Shaw and the dead geologist, he saw an opportunity. He wasn't interested in the money. He was interested in orchestrating the perfect, unsolvable crime, a puzzle to mop the very system he once served. With his cold, methodical mind, Vance directed the panicked student. He had known about the old maintenance hatches from a case he had presided over years ago involving a railway accident. While Miller was in the dining car, the two of them worked with frantic speed. They unbolted the hatch, a difficult task that left their hands raw. They pushed Finch's body and the satchel through the narrow opening, sending them tumbling down onto the rocky embankment beside the tracks, to be collected later by Shaw's associates, who were following the train by car. They then bolted the hatch from the inside and replaced the flooring and cushions. When Frank Miller returned, they were back in their seats, one feigning sleep, the other feigning ignorance, united in a conspiracy of silence. They had committed the perfect crime, leaving behind a locked room mystery that should have been unsolvable. The judge confessed with a strange sense of pride, detailing his plan, if he were presenting a brilliant legal argument. He believed he had proven how fallible the justice system was, how easily it could be fooled. He showed no remorse for Finch, only contempt for the detective who had outsmarted him. Justice, in the end, found its way. Peter Shaw, for his role in the crime, received a lengthy prison sentence. Judge Elias Vance, the architect of the impossible crime, would spend the rest of his life behind bars, a prisoner of the very system he had tried to subvert. The valuable fire agates were eventually recovered from the corporation that had hired Shaw. The story of the Canyon Star serves as a chilling reminder. It teaches us that the most elaborate illusions are often masks for the simplest and darkest of human motives: greed, fear, and pride. It shows that the truth, no matter how deeply it is buried, or how cleverly it is concealed, as a way of coming to light. And it proves that no crime is truly perfect, and no one can truly vanish without a trace. What do you think? Was the judge a brilliant mastermind, or a man deluded by his own ego? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story as fascinating as we did, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more true stories of mystery and intrigue.